I've been asked a few times how I sharpen my knives, and my reply is always I use a precision knife sharpener, but a lot of people don't understand the difference in knife sharpener, so I thought I'd make a short video to explain it. Most people have seen the stones before, these sharpening stones, and I have a couple different grits. These big ones, 120 and 320, are for axes and hatchets, or fixing really tore up blades. This one is a combination 1000, 3000 grit stone. I have some smaller stones that are in that general area, and this one is a jade stone, and it is the equivalent of a 10,000 grit. At that point you're really polishing up the blade, but those take a little bit of skill to use. You have to be able to hold a correct angle, and I'm not the greatest at it, so I don't do that very often unless I'm using large kitchen knives. And in that instance, I usually try to find the angle and then 3D print an angle finder or an angle holder, a knife sharpening guide, whatever you want to call it. You can purchase them as well, but if you have a 3D printer, why purchase them if you can make them? So for this, we'll sharpen my pocket knife. If you saw my other video, this is the zero tolerance knife I found on Wish. Yeah, we're all pretty sure it's a knockoff clone, but it's one of the nicest clones I've ever found on there. So the first thing we have to do is loosen our clamp, and we're going to wipe some of the dirt off the blade. And this is the knife I carry every day. It gets used and abused. I use it to turn screws, to pry things, open boxes, open packages, pick my fingernails, clean off the chainsaw bar when it gets clogged up with wood chips and stuff. So it gets a lot of use. So the first thing we'll do is get this clamped in. And we want to try to get the blade, we want to try to get this edge of the blade parallel to this edge of the clamp. And we could spend a lot of time measuring and making sure it's actually right, but it's a pocket knife and we're not going to waste a bunch of time on it because it's going to get abused again. We get it clamped in, and we take our dye marker. This says it's a permanent type waterproof ink, but you can use dye ink or Sharpie or whatever you have, and we're going to mark the front edge. And then I'm going to take my small 10,000 grit stone, and it just gets held in here. I will loosen my height adjustment knob, and I'm going to hold this by hand, and there's no oil on the stone or anything yet right now. We're just trying to find the angle by taking light passes and taking marker off. So that angle right there is only taking marker off of this edge on the top. We're not touching the edge of the blade yet, so we need to increase the angle. We'll take a few more passes. And we're just going to repeat that. Alright, now I am taking off all of the marker. So that is going to be our rough angle. Mark it up again. Give it just a second for that ink to dry. Now we'll double check. Need to go down a little bit. Now this time, since we're making small adjustments, I didn't loosen my screw all the way, and I just kind of wiggle it down. Alright, right there we're all across the edge. So we'll tighten that back up. And we'll put that stone away for now. So this little pouch that came with it, it comes with a variety of stones, and the ones that came with it, I think were labeled up to 3,000 grit. The 3,000 grit stone was actually more coarse than the 1,000 grit stone that came with it. So I didn't use that one. I bought a different set of stones, and in this pouch I normally keep 1,000 grit to 10,000 grit, because most of the time I'm just touching up knives. And there are tools you can buy to clean these stones up. You can use soap and a wire brush to try to get these deposits off. For the little bit of stuff I do, it's really not a big deal, right? I mean, we're taking a used and abused pocket knife and cleaning it up. So the instructions say to start from the back of the blade, no pressure on the handle, just the weight of the device, and run it forward to the tip. Do not lift it, and bring it back. And now pull out and rotate, and do the same number of strokes on the other side. Now you can hear the first few strokes are really coarse, really gritty sounding. That's a lot of the edges, if you look at them under a magnifying glass or something, will be kind of wavy. The actual zero tolerance knives are much higher quality steel than these knockoffs are. These sharpen more like a stainless, and stainless edges tend to roll fairly easy if you get them too sharp. So with all the abuse this knife sees, it's not uncommon to hear a lot of grittiness. But after 15 strokes, it's pretty smooth now. Now I could stop there, since this is a pocket knife and we don't need it super sharp. I wipe the excess oil and stuff off my stones. This one, I do need to clean this one up. I usually just use some Dawn dish soap and a wire brush to clean those stones up. And a lot of these are marked on the back what grit they are. So that one was a 2,000 grit, and this one is a 3,000 grit. A little bit of oil, and that Norton oil can is not actually filled with Norton oil. It's filled with Nathan's Natural Honing Oil, but the Nathan's bottles are messy and I don't like them. So I refill my old Norton can and keep using it. So that one had a little bit of grit to it on the first stroke or two, but it smoothed out really quickly. We'll go back over both sides one more time. Clean our stone up. And we'll move on to the next stone. And this one is a 5,000 grit. bit of oil. Now some stones do not use oil, they use water, and I am not really educated enough to know which requires which without trial and error. For example, these stones are water stones. They just soak in water for 15, 20, 30 minutes before you use them and they're good to go. This big one is also a water stone, and these really coarse ones you can pretty much just leave in the water all the time. The jade, I don't know if it's supposed to be water or oil, but the surface of it is so smooth it doesn't really seem to soak up water, so I use oil on it. Maybe that's not the right thing to do, but it seems to work alright. I guess what I should say is it's better to educate yourself than to just guess like I do, but all of these small stones that come for this style sharpener are oil stones, and since this is what I use 99% of the time, I've never taken the time to properly learn the difference between the stones. This one is an 8,000 grit. When I clean the blade off, I pull the rag away from the blade instead of sliding it down the blade, because if you did it right, it should be pretty sharp now. And I don't want to slide it down there and cut myself. We'll loosen up our screws. And it might not show up on the camera very well, but you'll see that after taking it to that 10,000 grit, the edge of the blade is shiny like it would be out of the factory. And it's sharp enough to shave with. Now granted, it's not a real smooth cutting shave. Again, it's a pocket knife, and I really didn't need to take it up to that sharp. The sharper it is, the easier it is to damage that edge, especially if it is just a stainless blade. But it has a nice point on it again. The edge is nice and sharp all the way through. Shaves all the way along. I am not sure how to pronounce that. Ruixin Pro, I am assuming, but it is a Chinese brand of knife sharpener, and the kit, when I bought it, was right around $40. I've had a couple of their other knife sharpeners before, and this one has been my favorite so far because it's so easy to just flip the edge over. And you can find some similar knife sharpeners made by different companies that have 2 clips on them instead of 1, and those are more ideal for larger knives, kitchen knives and such. And some of those will use much wider stones or longer stones than what this kit comes with. But this is just a cheap budget knife sharpener for small blades, and it works pretty well for pocket knives and small hunting knives, small kitchen knives. You can make it work for larger kitchen knives and machetes and such, but it involves doing a section of the blade at a time, using your die marker to mark where you start and stop, keeping track of how many strokes you did in that area so you can do it again in the next area. I don't like doing it that way, but if this is all you have, you can make it work. So I hope that helps you guys out sharpening your own knives or making a decision on a purchase if you want to get something like this. And if you guys have any more questions, let me know. Leave a message on here or hit me up on Snapchat or Discord.